Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming in and seeing us tonight for our latest artist showcase. This is our sixth our sixth showcase that we've had, and we're very excited by all the energy we're feeling from our artists, and we're really excited tonight to be joined by Miss Christine Barbour. And if you saw this week's Leader Observer, Christine was. Christine was featured in it in an article, and I had the pleasure of interviewing Christine and talking to you. But it's so much better hearing it out of your own words. So anyway, first of all, thank you for joining us tonight. How are you feeling?
Thank you, Ed. Nervous.
I
can read these things off to myself 100 times without a problem, but it's like reading to an audience is a different thing.
Well, I tell you, we're a very receptive audience. We're all really looking forward to this. But before we get into hearing your works, tell us a bit about yourself and your interest in writing as a young girl.
Yes, I must have been like 8 or 9 years old, and I learned to write. And I said, I have nothing to write about. So I had a problem with that. And I said the only thing, I had gone to Catholic school, the only thing I knew was prayers or psalms. So I would write those and then go downstairs and say to my parents, oh, I have something to read. And I'd read it to them, and they'd be like looking at each other like they had two heads, like, what is this kid doing? So that was my first entrance into poetry. And then as the years went by, I was given diaries as a child, 10, 11. And I would write everything in there, including prayers. And then I started to write poems. And I never stopped writing that way. And it just ended up becoming poetry.
What were your favorite topics when you were first starting out in poetry? What were you writing about?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. It was more like, what's in the world? What is outside my small world? What is out there? And so I have a series of poems that are strictly about that. And a lot of the poets, they don't like it because it's not strict, it's not concrete. But I have a good time writing them.
And are you still that way?
Yes. Yeah, and at the end of the presentation, you'll see 4 or 5 of those type of poems.
That's great. So I know we spoke about this, in terms of speaking in public and giving a reading. Tell us about that first time that you stood up and read for an audience besides your mom and dad.
Right. I was finishing my work as an MFA, and I had a professor that said, you can read, you can do this, right? So I went that one night, and there was about 50 people there, and I thought, I can't do this. There's no way I could do this. And he's like, get up there. So I did, and I was shaking, like every part of my body was shaking, and I read it, and I thought it was just okay. At the end of it, everyone in the audience went, oh. And I was like, okay, I've got something here, I guess. And that was my first time.
Oh, that's a terrific story. It's a great feeling getting that, getting that validation. From
right.
people.
Right.
So tell us a little. I know you're gonna talk about it in a little bit, but I was really fascinated about this this poem that you're gonna start off with, where you talk about the 2 men in Woodhaven.
Right. When I was pretty young, 9 or 10, and my mother would give me my father's shoes to take around to the shoemaker, and he was just on the next block. And I loved going there. I loved the smell of the place. I liked him. He was a very gentle person. And then he left. I guess he retired. I was hoping he retired. And then there was another shoe man on Jamaica Avenue. So I would bring the shoes up to him. And he had the same tattoo on his wrist that my first shoemaker had. So I didn't know what to think of it. And years later, I wrote a story about both of them as one person, though.
Okay. Oh, that's great. I mean, I'm really looking forward to people hearing about this. So, all right, I think we'll get a chance to talk to you more, and we'll open it up to everyone afterwards. But we're really looking forward to this. So I guess we're gonna turn it over to you, Chris, and I'm gonna turn off my camera here.
Oh, Ed, I just wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Will you be asking me questions like after the poem or during? I mean, I don't know how that goes.
Well, I wouldn't do it during the poem, but I might comment in between poems, but I won't do it during the poem.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. These are photographs that Vance has taken of me through my journey as a poet. I didn't realize there were so many pictures, but here are some of them. You see Poets Corner there and Sip This. Of course, Sarah Lawrence College, where I got the degree from. William Cullen Bryant Preserve in Roslyn, Levittown Library, Oceanside Library, and this small one on the right is of me giving awards away to St. Thomas's students. We had a contest, and they were from the 2nd grade up to the 8th grade, and that was a great day, both for them and for us.
Oh, that was nice.
And here's Poet's House and Starbucks in Little Neck, the Farmingdale Library, the Queen's Summer Festival, which was a great day. That was in Flushing Meadow Park. And my group was asked by Maria LaSala, who's the Queen's Poet Laureate, if we would join in that day, and we did, and it was wonderful. Here's the Queen's Historical Society in Astoria, Malloy College, Walt Whitman's birthplace, Poet's House is a wonderful place to be for a poet. And here we have me winning some awards with the Nassau County Poet Laureate, Peter V. Dugan, one with J.R. Turek, and Peter V. again. Here's me with Nassau County Poet Laureate, Lorraine LaFracio, Colin, Farmingdale, and let's see. Oh, here's one from Nears, one of the favorite places to hang out, with Queen's Poet Laureate. Oh, yeah.
I remember that night. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was a fun.
You remember that, right?
Yeah,
Right.
it was a great night. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was scared that night too.
Yeah. There's little Rose Kavanaugh down there.
I know. She was
like
so
her
sweet.
I think it was like her 86th birthday that night.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, she was so nice. And then here's Queen's Poet Laureate Maria LaSala from the Queen's Historical Society. And next we have some of my work, which I'll just give a quick kind of explanation. There are pictures here with poems overlaid, and the poems that have been actually published somewhere are in full content. The other poems haven't been published, and there's a rule that if you send out your work somewhere, either online, whatever, you've already published it. So I could only put a few sentences in, or less than a few sentences. So it'll still be considered as something to be published. The first one is the Shoemaker's Glue. And of course, it's one of my favorite, and I if I have an open mic, I try and read this. So the shoemaker's glue. When I was old enough to cross the streets on my own, my mother would send me around to the shoemaker who fixed the heels and soles of the neighborhood. The shop was small and cramped. Dinginess and shades of faded tans and cream-colored flesh hung everywhere, along with black shine and polish like white ash. But what drew me in and kept me there was the sweet smell of the shoemaker's glue. Odors of Meltonian and mink oil, combined with the glue and leather, would meet me at the door to his small hovel, pulling me inside for a visit and a shine. After I was there a while, every smell that I had experienced in my young life faded. One day, while I was helping him hang the shoes up on the wall, I saw the inside of his wrist where he'd written some blue-green tattooed numbers. I thought only kids did this. I asked him why he hadn't washed them off. He told me that some things can't be washed away. He said, even if they burned off, to him, they would still be there, like a smell you can't forget. The shoemaker shared his story, and I understood why the numbers wouldn't scrub clean, and how he used the glue to try and keep out the scent of the chimney smoke. Souls that he watched drift toward heaven as he stood in an enclosure in the cold, with nothing on but those numbers, and smelled a fragrance like crushed almond paste, vanilla.
Very nice.
Now,
Very nice. And it's really interesting about the. I just want to ask you here about the, because you there's a lot of talk about odors in here and smells of the shoemaker's
right.
glue, and it's really interesting the way that goes through all the whole poem. The whole piece.
Yeah. And it actually turns out that the smell is like benzene, which is not good for you, but it has a sweet odor. So instead of saying benzene, I tried to come up with another smell that was like that. This next one, Ed, is something you had an event at the carousel one year.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a picture and wrote this poem from the picture. And that's what's called an ekphrastic poem. It means you write a poem from a piece of art or a photograph. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Also, the other part of this is poet William Blake from the 17th century wrote two groups of poems. One was in innocence and the other was experience. And I use the lamb, which Blake wrote, little lamb, and then experience, which is the tiger, 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 burning bright. And that's what I use to try and set this little girl off toward the forest. Little lamb, where are you going? You've turned your back on the world of carved creatures, where children hold onto brass poles while sitting on wooden horses, galloping horses as children rise into the air and children fall, while these mounts run the same circular wooden track summer after summer. But you, little lamb, where are you running to? With the fragrance of fresh popped corn following you as your bold red sneakers itch to go on a walkabout. I watch your delicate body turn away from the carousel, and you pass the concession stands with their savory smells of frankfurters and crushed mustard seeds, while behind you, mother's frightened voice screams your name. She can be heard above the organ music as you toddle toward the entrance of the woods, toward the forest of your life. And now, this one was like one of my favorites, but it's one of my recent ones. So it always seems to be that the recent one is my favorite. It's called There's a Crack in Everything. And the epigram is by Ralph Waldo Emerson. There's a crack in everything God has made. And 100 years ago, 100 years after, Leonard Cohen wrote, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. We live on an ugly street that is almost barren of trees and has cracks in all the sidewalks where the light gets in and allows the weeds to grow out in the broken places. As they spread across the pavement, the plants look like green arachnids with 8 hairy legs of chlorophyll. Our house was built in 1920, and the city assigned a block and lot number for it, which doesn't match the address, but nevertheless, the numbers need to be written in the memo section of each check, used to pay the mortgage and the real estate taxes. If you're inclined, you can see a picture online of our little place that Google documented via a drone, which shows you exactly where the residence is and what the old house looks like from the roofline. I've never moved. I'm usually home. I write in a quiet space in the same corner of the same room every day. My desk stands in front of the window on the 2nd floor and overlooks the sidewalk and its cracks. While I'm not contemplating the state of the nation or who might win the Pulitzer Prize or the Guggenheim Fellowship, the muse slips in and speaks to me. He distracts me as I brush my teeth, dry my hair, or while I wait for the tea to steep. In the middle of writing poems and wrestling with conjunctions like that or which, and or but, since or because, I look out over our ugly street, and each day I am grateful that the light gets in. Split open, epigram. There's power in the broken pieces. Joel Osteen. Your fingers hold the shaft to the blade that separates the skin over my heart, the way love is the key that opens my soul, or the way lightning rips the sky suddenly without warning, and in that chasm we imagine heaven in colors that only the blind can see. The Star's Tears, and this was taken from basically my first sleepover ever as a child. The Star's Tears. While you and I, girl, slid under a feather blanket lying low, watching the twinkling of the stars, watching their tears fall out of the sky as we wrapped our arms round one another's in play and enjoyed the happy sleepover while New York City's temperature reflected 20 degrees, but we were insulated beneath the feathers and the sky, didn't feel the ice cold. We only felt the warmth of one another's legs entwined and sweet breaths against each other's cheeks as we tasted the stars' tears when we opened our mouths filled with laughter and our tongues with shouts of joy. Here's another tears one, but that comes because I've been living in the same house for so long. My old tears. I have lived, I can see my soul staining the walls. It's indented stair. I walk, never trip for a footstool. I see my old tears outlined on the floor where they have fallen. But most of all, I still smell your presence inside the house. A perfume of leather emanates from your shoes and your boots, even though you've been gone for years. Yeah, I have to give a little explanation again about this poem. It was basically written in one stream, and was very rarely happens. I didn't have to edit it. It just came out like that, and And then a couple of years later, I was researching another tower poem, and there was an article that said the dust would be blown from the towers 2 days after, and it would come to Queens 2 days after. So that's where I got the title from. 2 days after, fully dressed and propped up in bed by pillows, and with a found kitten so young she was still blind and sleeping on my outstretched legs, when I felt a peaceful breeze blowing from the north and bringing with it glittery beige stardust, the color of a female sparrow's wings, that danced past my window screen, and some blew in. I know I inhaled the ashes of the dead, their bodies reduced to shimmering particles that scattered along on the wind. I knew it was them. One day, 2 days after the towers fell, I had breathed in the sacred manna of their lives. Okay, the next one is this is the second tower poem, and I've done it using another voice, a young person's voice. So you could say, again, it's an innocence and experience poem. Tower footprints. Husband tells me, lean back against the tower. A strange thing to do, I think. I feel my spine and shoulders laying like on a vertical hard mattress. Look up, put your head against the tower and look straight up to the top, husband says. Trust husband, I tell myself. I feel the building rough against my hair, aluminum alloy tugging pieces of curls toward the tower. The ground disappears, I disappear, and in that moment I am flying without wings, without plane, to the top of the tower, into the cloudless sky. I am on the ledge of the structure, hanging between heaven and the world, don't feel my feet, can't come back to the ground. A powerful deception when you know something's askew, like in a magic trick you can't figure out. Husband sees that I cannot free myself from the wall and tugs my arm. Come on, let's go, he says, breaking me out of the trance. We laugh and I twist my neck around as we walk away. Look back to find the secret architectural design, but the tower keeps it hidden. Years later, 2 footprints of water fall each into their own pool, replacing fire. Calming streams relax the watchers. An empty cobalt sky looks down into the chasms full of water, full of life pouring down all 8 sides of the 2 footprints. Water, where were you when the towers were falling and falling? Okay. Well, this is a happy poem anyway. It happened, there was actually a blue moon and we could see that. It was March 2018 and we were coming home from a restaurant, Vance and I looked up and this thing was huge. It took up half the sky. And I said, I can get a poem out of that. So it's Allegory of the Blue Moon, epigram. Do you remember the happiest day of your life? There is a full moon tonight. It is a rare blue moon that shines over Manhattan like a perfect round hole punched out of the black sky that leaves only whiteness visible and lets us see through to another realm. On the other side of this cosmic portal is the Galapagos Islands, where other lives are being lived through the same moon as yours, but on a different continent. And through this amazing door, you see into the sphere of the blue moon, a bird with blue feet that you have no prior knowledge of, that you doubt is even real, but it is the blue-footed booby bird, and he is dancing, tap dancing in the middle of the night on a rock of black lava, with both blue booby-webbed feet The blue moon hanging like a spotlight, focused on those breathtaking feet. His mate stands next to him. She is smiling from one end of beak to the other, and she's thinking, "You've got the sexiest blue booby feet in the world." And you can hear her saying these words in her booby feathered language, saying these love words to him that you shouldn't be able to understand, but you do. And then you smile and think, how wonderful that she loves him so, and his funny blue webbed feet. And maybe this unexpected sacred gift, this holy sighting by the spotlight of the moon, happened to you because you simply looked up. You might even think, maybe today is the happiest day of my life. Um, Deborah Diggs, she was one of my teachers at Sarah Lawrence, and probably taught me the most important thing about craft and poetry and endings. The Unforgiven Wind, in memory of Deborah Diggs. For years, I believed you were on this earth, walking the paths that Dickinson walked through Amherst, Massachusetts, while teaching cadences and endings and crowding your ark full of dogs, cats, and folks you thought you could fix, until I found your obit on the internet. I remember your blue eyes neared tears when a cold breeze blew across your face, and the way your long hair, unassembled, collected dandelion wishes in summer and waved like a cardinal's feathers in winter. Maybe you were unaware that synapses can snap, change the course of your life's ending, and make you believe that what you were doing was right, as you stood on the stadium's highest ledge and bowed your head toward earth. Maybe you thought you were dreaming, or that someone below would catch you as you slipped into the unforgiving wind. Okay. Well, this one is a fun one. Okay. Your tiny beak, epigram. What is it about birds? What makes me think they're so mysterious? Tom Lux. Your tiny beak is like a miniature cup that holds kernels of seeds, gathered from the windowsill where they fell from the feeder, and where I sit on the other side, studying your diminutive life, a life no less special than mine. I hear your sharp claws as they scratch along the aluminum ledge, while I move the curtain slowly, not to scare you away, so I can observe the theater that is you as you fly into the naked maple tree and begin to crack each seed open against the branch. Then your head tilts sideways, looks over to see me watching you, your feathers ruffled by the winter's sudden wind, your eyes smaller than 2 mustard seeds. You fawn-colored sparrow, you miniature forager-gatherer. Why am I so interested in birds? These tiny 2-legged dinosaurs, these modern T-Rexes, small velociraptors, standing on my windowsill. Yeah, I just started doing the nature part of this and forgot to tell everybody. Okay, this one is Schrodinger's cat, which most poets know and have written about. And it's something that Schrodinger was an Austrian physicist, and it makes something be alive and not alive at the same time. This is my overwritten Schrodinger's poem. Calico Memories. As I watched your wasting body on my lap and felt your urine ebb out onto my jeans, I knew that soon you would be merely a mix of calico memories. In the vet's office, you let me know you were scared and hurting when you delivered your final bite, and blood dripped out from my forefinger in a perfect round red spot as another fluid that would take your ninth life eased into your almost non-existing vein. On the long walk back to the car, I felt that you were in the carrier. I could not tell because your body was so light, as if your marrow had dried up and left only hollow bones. So except for the lack of your sound, long spread out tracks of meow, like with Schrodinger's cat after the vial is broken, there is a 50% chance of you being there or not there when I open the carrier at home. Fat cat. Fat cat, she lays across my lap and tucks her head into my warm arm and pretends to sleep. In the morning, her soft whiskers brush along the skin of my palms, and I am calmed. In childhood, the nuns told us not to love pets. They have no soul. But something as beautiful as she is symmetrical and created by God could have only been made to love. The hungry cat. The neighbor's hungry cat, with her golden eyes and black slits like the entrances into hell, perched beneath our tree. She reached her thin paw out from underneath her breastbone, spread her claws apart, making a tiny cage. Then she pressed down onto the little brown mouse. Her teeth sank into its furry neck, and she twisted it to the right and to the left until she heard the small bones break. When she lifted the dead creature off the ground, there wasn't any bloodletting. Then she trotted away with it in her mouth to a safe place before the big clean. Later, the dead thing found its way to our front doorstep. Good kitty, we tell her as we pet her fur, pat her majestic head, thank her for the gift. Okay. These next four poems are about my parents. The first one of each will be while my father was alive and then when he passed, and vice versa for my mother. My father's chapstick, a flash, a memory of you as you stood in the hallway while I sat on our stairs and watched you dress in the winter outfit you would wear back and forth to work, as you put on your tweed coat, your detective Clouseau hat, your modern day black earmuffs that sucked tight around your ears when you pressed them on with a snap. And then I watched you roll the chapstick onto your lips as the final order of dress, and me, years from being able to hold a job and travel the trains with you, I stared as you closed the front door on your way to the subway. After you left, I picked up your chapstick and opened the case, smelled the gentle fragrance, and returned it to its rightful place, climbed the stairs, turned off the hall light, and went to bed until breakfast. I forgot the memory of how you looked to me from a 4-year-old child's perspective until today, as I watched the snow build into a blizzard and remembered that you were my coat and my little girl mittens. You were my strength, pulled me along the snow road sled at dawn. Wine for my father. Before we left for home, heading south to New York City, I looked into his eyes, that sacred blue which mirrors heaven, kissed him on the cheek, and hugged him my last goodbye. 100 miles away, While we were having dinner, laughing and drinking wine, he was falling into the steering wheel, face forward, bruised, his amazing heart broken beyond repair. That night the call came that he had passed. It happened in one split second, before his head touched the wheel, before the last sips of wine slipped their way down our throats. And these two are for my mother. Passion fruit. I study hands, my mother's hands, how they move. How I study hands, my mother's hands, how they move, how gentle or how rough they touch the world, how they reach out to explore. I watch the way her fingers splay wide like a fan, or come together in a prayer, or how the sun brushes over them, colors them tan. I study women's necks, where they have no Adam's apple. Only Adam ate the forbidden fruit and grew an apple in his throat. I study how we, us women, we wear scarves and necklaces to cover the aging skin beneath, where the sacred fruit is hidden. I study hands, my mother's hands, as they brush gently over hallowed places where lovers once kissed, there and there, kissed hands, kissed throats, hands that recall the fruits of passion. The rose inside of you, for my mother. I sat next to your sleeping form for the last several hours, not wanting to miss your soul break free. Your head was turned away from me, toward the window's pane that captured the afternoon sun like a painting. Your aide broke the stillness, asked, should I give her another sip of morphine? Speechless, I nodded. She parted your lips and the liquid, translucent like water, trickled onto your tongue from the clear pipette, silently, deadly like poison. Minutes passed. I began to pat your chest, where the rose inside of you lay dying. Tulubdub, tulubdub, tulubdub. The sun had grown dim. Your soul drifted away without a death rattle. No one heard you leave the room. Oh, sorry. I'm scratching this one. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. This one is called Love Your Words. Epigram. Words are gifts that have been given to me by many poets, many writers who allowed me to find them and make my own words. You need to love the thing you do. If you're a gardener, love the plants and the soil your hands touch and forsake the weeds that grow up, even between the stones, though even weeds need tending too. If you're an artist, love the medium you work between your fingers, the clay or the marble, the oil and the water, the form that takes shape on the pottery wheel, or the image you paint on the canvas. If you work in cloth or leather, love each single thread you stitch into the fabric and pull back out again through the other side. That makes a dress, a suit, a pair of shoes. If you're a writer, you need to love the words on your page that creates a poem, a prayer, a story, so that other people who will find them will love them too. Okay. Now, okay. This one is written from a true life experience. And once I got home, I wrote this out, and this was like something that I didn't have to edit very much at all. It's called The Book Launch. Recently, you found his poems and bought every one of his books you could find because something between his lines filled a need you didn't know you had before you read them. Maybe he was a catalyst and nothing more when you offered him the gift of your poem, and he added it to his backpack, already full to bursting. He was there for one short evening, not even 120 minutes that his book launch allotted, where he read his poems, was interviewed, then signed copies of his books. He autographed the ones you brought to him while you told him stories about poets you had mutually known at different times and under different circumstances, and who were no longer alive. He patted his heart repeatedly at their naming. Afterwards, he smiled and shook your hand. It was dry and cool. You could almost feel each of the 27 bones in his slender grip, which was in balance with his slight frame. But he appeared larger than his actual size. Later that evening, after you were home and when the adrenaline rush had simmered to a slow boil of memory, you came to understand that the simple act of meeting him created in you the strength to gather your manuscript together from scraps of paper and notepads stuffed under your desk and scattered around the room in no specific order or theme, and for you to wake up and write your own book. These next two poems are, I always have the saying in my head, I said, there's no coincidence, there's no coincidence. And so I had to look that up and write a couple of poems from it, and these two are it. Synchronicity. There was no wind, no hurricane or tornado. There was a man out for his morning walk, and there was an old tree nearing the end of its life, breaking apart in pieces, which took its time with a deadly descent toward earth. Before the tree branch broke and ripped the dry pulp from inside the rings, there was a sound of a subtle crack, then a wishing of wings, like the rhythmic humming that swans make as they announce their landing. If the man had stopped at home long enough to make oatmeal instead of eating cereal directly out of the box, or long enough to brush his teeth, or to clean out the cat's litter box, he wouldn't have reached the spot at the same moment when the tree's limb fractured, snapped, and fell sideways to the sidewalk, where it killed an innocent man who had strained upward to see the unusual noise when chance and coincidence collided in casually unrelated events. That is the law of synchronicity. Part 2, and this was a true story. No coincidence. You transferred from the 6 train at Chambers Street Station to the J. Off hours got a seat, eyes closed tight, trying to catch a few Z's when a voice travels above the train's odors of scallions, bok choy, and garlic, picked up at the Canal Street Station and flowed from small orange bags bought at Chinese vegetable shops, when a familiar tenor hovers in the air above everyone else's. You would recognize his tone if it was telegraphed from Mars. Your eyes bolt open from the sense memory of his intense sound, and halfway down the car you see him animatedly talking with a friend. You laugh out loud, remembering the relationship you shared in another lifetime, realizing now there is no coincidence. He left work early. Your doctor's appointment ended early. You both arrived at the same time on the same train in the same car. He heard laughter and looked in your direction, and there you both were, remembering a friendship that had never been broken, only misplaced. And that was Vance and I. Okay. Oh yeah, this is okay. I've only got about 5 left. How are we doing on time, Ed?
We're doing good, Chris. You're doing great. Thank you.
Oh, great, thanks. Okay. This idea came from a 60-minute story one night, and it just, it like shocked the hell out of me. And I said, I've got to put something together about that. The tiny hands that mine Micah. 12-hour days in Micah mines. We watch their torment from the sidelines of the couch in our comfortable homes. So much food in our refrigerators. We could feed 50 of the tiny mouths at a time. They're paid $2 for an 84-hour week, live in white dust that covers their toddlers' bodies and their spirits as they effortlessly slip into the mica pits underground. Lost tribes in India and Madagascar. Their countries will not acknowledge the babies and how each make millions on the backs of these dying souls who, from age 4, labor mine the depths for mica, the pits 15 inches around, too small to fit a man. Little hands and little bodies, perfect for the work, disposable tools, like 12-year-old Dickens, who pasted labels to pots of blacking, boot polish for the survival of his family. These little ones will lose their breath in the dust-filled air above and below ground, as scar tissue builds in their lungs, and there is the question of cancer from a mineral honed. A life that only knows how to dig and sort, no food or water during the day. Some die where they stand like a horse, no funeral, no time for loss, just step over them, around them. Their tiny hands are merely damaged instruments. No one worries about them. They are gone, and the mines still need to be mined. The children move on and continue scraping the walls of their mica tunnels. Tomorrow morning, smooth the foundation on your face, layer it even, then apply the powder and rouge that glitters with mica dust. Will you feel their tiny hands like makeup artists as they beautify your skin so you can go out into the world and live your day? Okay, now I've come to the part where people say, oh no. It's called otherworldly. I think that's word, and that should end it. What happened here? No, the screen went out.
You're not sharing anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what happened here.
Click this.
And then do the share again.
Yep, and then go down there to the slideshow, bottom right.
That's it.
There we
Thank
go.
you. Sorry about that, folks.
No, don't be. That's fine.
I'm not computer savvy here. This is called The Sudden Shock of Lightning, and it's about birth and rebirth. Lightning cuts the sky like a curtain opening into the charcoal night, and beneath you, the bedroom floor drops away and your body becomes weightless, your mind without emotion or intellect. The gravity of flesh and ancestry fall away. You float in the gap between the dogs where began, and providence will guide you. You move into the slice of lightning. An illumination so clear reveals itself. You see flutters of god dust and sparks of neon. souls merging and bursting apart. You feel love inside the celestial explosion, where shards of light snap and flash, bathing you. Then you inhale the embers, flecks of a forgotten past. After the night's black draperies close, you are back in your room where bones and blood weigh down your body. Your mind has been impeded by your childhood, religion, and red wine. The mysterious universe you witnessed in the slit of the curtains, and the inside of the thunderbolt you saw awash in bits of fire, bright with essences ascending, is concealed by the veil. You cannot recall the million parts of yourself and how they came together through time, and how you traveled down the canal through ancient lives towards your birth, the sudden shock of lightning. That one. Okay. Conception. I felt thunder and trains resonating inside a cavernous chest, my own cherry red stones of heart and lungs, a reverberation like drums from outside these stucco walls, and with percussion sounds like those made by a gong, vibrating in my breast, exploding out of subterranean locations, this one woman parade of senses. I struggled to remember where I stood, feet in liquid murk, incense trailing the air, and your presence inside my flesh and everywhere at once. I overlooked you in plain sight, with your mystical style and me, wearing my eyes and ears on my ass, and with the audacity to explore the moon, Mars, and beyond, while I am slow to fathom this world. Okay. I started a series of question poems where the question has to be something that cannot be answered. Oh, sorry. How can I not believe? Many times I have asked myself these questions. Why am I standing in this place at this moment instead of breathing in the arid air of Africa and dying of AIDS? Why was I not born an elephant that mates for life? Why was I not born a butterfly that lives on the wind? No one will tell me, not even the looking glass, not even the saints, the prophets, or the Pope. How can I believe in a God I cannot see? A God that steers me to unusual places, a God that challenges me with illness, disease, and death, a God that allows me to believe in forever after. I believe in this God because I stand here dressed in a suit of his making, with vocal cords that allows me to speak to you of things not understood, things he created in me, created in all of us, like the unique whorls of our hands and fingertips, 2 ears, 2 shoulder blades, and a brain that does not exist in anyone else. How can I not believe? Stardust. If dreams are truer lives than the lives that we struggle through, will you come and stay with me, your hand holding mine, where only one hand exists, your touch lighter than stardust? If dreams are remnants of some other life, where our souls were divided by desert sands, the plague, my fear of heights, I have dreamt an ocean full of you and come up thirsty. As in a mirror, epigram, you will never grow old and you will never die. Anne Rice. Death is where we live forever, above the cirrus clouds formed of crystal ice that looks like filaments of feathers, and where our crematoria ash of pulverized bones and glittery dust dances across the heavens, and where creation's wisdom passes through us. We we'll touch the dawn of another civilization and hold it in the palms of our open hands. We will hold time, space, and the cosmos, and we will never die, but at last come through a glass darkly, where the veil has been lifted, and know the mysteries of God for the first time. Okay. In the dream. In the dream, we were standing in an airless room where nothing moved. His eyes shone like the sacred blue that mirrors heaven, and when he smiled at me, his lips were full of laughter. The father I had lost was recalled to life, and he said in a distinctive pitch, "We are all stars." Then he repeated that line, and I believed him, maybe because in life he had never lied to me. He never read Stephen Hawking, but he told me that we are all stars that do not die but burst apart, changing shape and form. Supernovas, dust clouds scattered throughout space, remnants in a galaxy. And this is the last one, Ed. Okay. Charm and Strange. So I did try and read Stephen Hawking sometime, and I came across this thing, which was interesting to me. The rest of it, I had no idea. But it turns out that an atom has these tiny, tiny things called quarks. And each quark has 6 pieces, top, bottom, charm, strange, and up, down. So when I saw the charm, strange, I said, yeah, I could write to that. Okay, charm and strange. In memory of Stephen Hawking. We are so small to God, less than the nothingness between subatomic quarks, including charm and strange. Yet to ourselves, we find ourselves everywhere and in everything. We are cresting waves, mists filmy, nebulous, setting suns, the moon's penumbras like carbon filings blazing into blood-red fire. We are more souls alive now than all the tired minds worn down since time. From the first stellar explosions, we are one holy mass shattered. The earth heals itself. We are just specks. Thank you, Ed.
Beautiful. Very, very well done. Very well done. How do you feel?
Relieved. Yeah. Relieved. I don't know. Do you want to be able to just show this last slide in case people want to write down the Iron Horse Poetry site?
Absolutely. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. I started out going to the library saying, you know, I'll teach a class of poetry for you. And they said, great, we'll give you a month. So I said, okay, fine. So I'm in there a month, and the people really liked it and they wanted to continue it. And so I guess like halfway through, I decided I needed to do more. So I started this Facebook page, Iron Horse Poetry, and I put out poems and poets and everything literature. Yeah, and so the group lasted 7 years, and from 1 month, it wasn't such a bad run.
That's great. All right. Well, let's. I'm gonna.
Now what do I do?
You can stop sharing there, and I'm going to let people unmute themselves and let people start their video, and we can say hello to everybody. And there we go.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
There we go. It's good seeing everybody's faces again. How are we all doing?
Fine.
First of all, let's give Christine a nice round of applause there. Beautifully done, Chris. That was really
Thanks,
really
Ed. Thank
nice.
you. Oh,
Enjoyed it very much. It was wonderful.
thank you so much.
Mhm. It's hard to describe just how you can take someone right into the feelings and the emotion that you just know how to express it so well. That yeah, I thought they were very moving and enjoyed every single one. Thank you again. Thank you, Ed, for having her.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
It was an excellent collection of poems, and I love your introspective arc in just every one. Just really beautiful work. Thank you for sharing it with us tonight.
Thanks so much, Louise. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Christine, for painting all the pictures in my head. I could see every poem, literally. I was closing my eyes in some of them, and I saw the tree that was about to go on the man in Synchronicity. And then it brought me back to the movie I just saw, The Butterfly Effect, how just the flutter of a wing of a butterfly could just change everything, like synchronicity, like you said.
Right. Thanks, Deborah.
You're welcome.
And I had the memory of when I used to go to the shoemaker for my dad also, which was down off of Jamaica Avenue on Woodhaven Boulevard. And I could that took me, the smell, the way you described it, took me right back to going into that shoemaker shop.
Good, good. Good, then I know I did something right.
Oh, yeah. I'm sitting here in my kitchen and I could smell the shoemaker shop.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Chris, as a writer, do you have a specific time or a schedule that you discipline yourself for writing, or is it serendipitous?
No.
How do you work?
It doesn't matter where I am or sitting on a couch hearing a program on TV, and we're just, walking, you come across something. Yeah, like I came across this dead yellow bird in Forest Park, and day after day I would see him, and the rain came down on him, so he kind of got flattened. Of course, that became a poem. So,
Hey, Chris, do you ever go through periods of writer's block?
Hasn't happened.
Good for you.
Hasn't happened.
I bet you have a notebook and a pen in your purse whenever you go out.
Right, that's right.
Write your inspirations down.
Exactly. Right. Oh yeah.
Christine, I don't know much about poetry, but how do you know when your poem is done? Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Vance is yelling behind me. It's never done because I'm always bothering him with, But there's a rare few that when it's done, boom, right away. And there's others that I've been working on for 25 years, and I just keep putting to the side, and so.
Wow.
I don't know.
Wow.
Christine, do you ever have a dream about a poem and then it pops in your head and you have to write it down when you wake up?
That was it. In the dream, where my father comes back to me in the dream, that was because I dreamt that. So yeah, but not often, but it was that was almost the only one.
That's amazing. It's like he spoke to you in your dream and you saw him, and then it flowed out right through your hands onto the paper. That's amazing how you described his eyes like mirrors and beautiful blue oceans. Right. Beautiful.
When I use his eyes, it's the same description in any poem I write of him. So that's, people would think, oh, she's copying it, but it's not that. It's intentional that I want to see his eyes that way on the page all the time.
Chris, hi.
Friend Mike.
It's great to see you. I think you did a wonderful job, and you read some of my favorites, and you know which ones they are about your father's chapstick and about the little girl from the carousel. I love those narrative pieces that you do, and your sincerity comes through. It really does.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
Mike, thanks. I wish you were here. I'd give you a hug.
Well, I want to say thank you as well. I'm Christine's cousin, and this is the first time I've ever heard her recite her poetry, which is absolutely deeply amazing, has a wonderful variety. And my other two sisters just signed off because one's in California driving home from work. And the other one, I don't know what the heck she's doing, other than moving her household.
Thanks, Monica. Thank you.
I love the ones, of course, of your mom and dad, and just so thrilled you sent us a note and gave us an invitation. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, sure, of course, of course. You're my favorite cousins.
We love you, Christy.
That was your sled. That was your borrowed sled.
I figured.
We got married.
I'm also Christine's
cousin Sue.
Chrissy's mother and my father were brother and sister, and I've never heard your poems read before either, and some of them really stunned me because we've never been close geographically, but there's something going on there. There's some genetic thing going on there. I'm going to email you tomorrow with the poems that really struck me.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me to this.
I'm so glad you came.
Me too.
Christine, have you published any of your work? Is there a book out? What have you done?
Yeah, that's it. I've for all of it. No, I've only published about 15 pieces because I am the worst with trying to get that stuff out. But I've got, at this point, I've got almost 2 books. And so I know I have to get to that. And it'll probably be self-published because to go to all these different publishing houses to get, it takes forever.
Yeah. Well, at least you can put them in the poetry place. Everybody can put their poems in there, and I love that place.
Oh, yeah.
So this is where I jump in, Christine. I am very proud of you. You did a fabulous job. Your presentation was wonderful. To be able to move from literally slide to slide for a visual and the auditory, wonderful. I mean, I've heard a number of your poems a number of times, and it added such depth. And so, here's the admonition part. Get your books going.
Well, thank you. That was it was Vance who put that whole presentation together because I don't know computers from anything. So
he did a great job. Well, he's one of my favorite photographers anyway. So get your books together. Come on.
I know. Okay.
All right. Well, listen, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. This was another great. I love when we get local folks here in Woodhaven and bring them. And we've had a few of them here tonight. Deborah and Louise are here tonight, and I saw Jennifer was here earlier as well. So it's great. We're creating a nice little community of artists here. So Chris, I want to thank you again, and really
thank you so much, Ed.
We're really happy to see everybody. So everyone, we'll see you next Tuesday.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good job, Chris.
Yeah, good job, Chris.
Thanks, Paula.